All right, let's talk about the Detroit Lions. Of course, training camp is essentially here for the Lions. They, along with the Los Angeles Chargers, are in the first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game. So they start earlier than everybody else, getting ready. Football is finally back. It's an exciting time to be alive. And already at this early junction, we're hearing news out of Detroit about a massive lineup change, a massive strategic decision, a shift for Detroit coming this offseason, coming this regular season, excuse me. We're looking at this Lions squad to potentially take a big step forward. A lot of people think it's about maintaining. This Detroit team's all about moving forward, being aggressive. This latest news is just further proof of that, and we'll get into that in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick. That is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, a lot of people thought with Ben Johnson moving on to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears that this Lions offense would slowly degrade. They'd stop innovating. They'd stop changing. Folks, that ain't happening. They're still making big moves to strategic decisions to push this offense into the next level. We got a great report highlighting a massive decision involving running back Jahmyr Gibbs and how they plan to use him. Let's jump into an article, then we'll get into the data on the other side. This is courtesy of NBC Sports. John Morton replaced Ben Johnson as the team's offensive coordinator this offseason, and Gibbs revealed one of the new wrinkles he's installed into an offense that scored the most points in the league last season. It involves Gibbs lining up outside of the backfield more frequently did in his first 2 seasons. Nothing too much changed, so a lot of the stuff is the same, Gibbs said via WXYZ. I got to learn the formations for this, but I'm being split out, I guess, like way more than I was the past 2 years. That's good. That's going to be fun. I've been waiting on that. He wants me to be more involved in it. So that's what he plans on doing. All right, that sentence there towards the end, that's the big change there, splitting him out a lot more than they were using him over the past couple seasons with Ben Johnson. And where it gets very interesting is that Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously a very talented receiving running back, one of the best weapons in the National Football League. He was not split out very much when you look at top receiving running backs. Let's pull up our graphic right here to kind of highlight what I'm talking about. And here we've got Austin Eckler, we got Devon Achane and Alvin Kamara, and of course Jahmyr Gibbs. And we're looking at the percentage lined up in slot among these top receiving running backs. And we can see Eckler, Achane led the pack among these four. These are some of the top guys, of course. Alvin Kamara around 16%, significantly above Jahmyr Gibbs, who was right at 10%. So Jahmyr Gibbs was used a decent amount lined up as a split out outside the running back position in a wide receiver slot kind of position, but he was not used nearly as much as Eckler, Achane, or Alvin Kamara. So the question then is, well, is just Jahmyr Gibbs, is he as good as these guys in terms of being a receiver in those situations? When you break down his data, though, his yards per reception, he's better than these guys. It speaks for itself. Let's go ahead and pull up our next graphic here to just highlight it for you guys. We're talking about yards per reception among those same guys in those same situations. Austin Eckler, Devon Achane, Alvin Kamara, and then Jahmyr Gibbs. And you can see right there, Gibbs with a little over 10 yards per reception is higher than all of those guys. And again, just to really emphasize this, these are no slouches. Austin Eckler's been a good football player for a really long time in the National Football League. Achane's one of the weapons. Miami kind of gets a lot of bad publicity, but Achane is a big-time playmaker. And, of course, Alvin Kamara, there's very few people that's been doing it at such a high level for such a long time. And despite all of that, Jahmyr Gibbs has a higher yards per reception than all those guys, right? Again, Gibbs is an elite playmaker. We all know that. We all understand that. But this was an opportunity that the Lions didn't utilize as much as they possibly could have last season. Now, an argument could be made that they were scoring enough points. It really didn't matter, and that was a fair point. But you always got to be evolving. Evolve or die, as we like to say. And this Lions offense, despite changing offensive coordinators, a lot of people thinking the brains are leaving. Ben Johnson was the genius behind the scenes running the show. He was the magic guru. That magic has left. The Lions are going to fall on hard times. Not so. They're still innovating. They're still trying new ways to be creative and moving Jahmyr Gibbs more into the slot position, utilizing him more in that capacity, which we can take advantage of his yards per reception there. Again, these are great players he's compared against. We can now leverage more opportunities. We're talking more efficiency, more points, easier job for Jared Goff, especially when you're trying to integrate some changes up front on the offensive line. I'm looking at this Detroit team to not take a step back. A lot of people think this offense is going to take at least 2 step backs with a lot of the guys leaving, of course, the retirement and Johnson leaving. I think we're going to see a status quo offense for Detroit because of moves like this. And guess what, folks? A status quo offense for the Lions is the best in football. That's a great sign for Detroit as we get ready for training camp. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Lions fans, in the comment section below, as we get ready for training camp, what's one position battle you got your eye on more than any other, right? There's a couple of very interesting ones. Obviously, not a lot of starter position battles. There are some, but there's some backup ones, some depth guys that are going to be really, really interesting, really important, especially Lions fans. You know this better than anybody. That depth really rears its ugly head as you get into the postseason when those injuries start to pile up. So give us the one position battle you're looking forward to more than any other. Put it in the comment section below. And while you're down there, make sure you sign up for our weekly newsletter courtesy of the Substack platform. You probably heard us advertising it a bunch on this channel. 100% free, just as extra content for you guys. We get good feedback on it. We highlight the comments of the week, throw some extra stuff on there. Again, it's just extra good feedback, good content for you guys, extra data, extra articles, just more information for you guys to get you ready for the upcoming season. Make sure you check it out. 100% free. Link in the description box below. But Miles, enough from me. Over to you. What are your thoughts on this latest out of Detroit?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is a fantastic idea for Detroit to split Gibbs out wide more often than not. Because when you look at this guy, over his time in college, whether it's Georgia Tech, Alabama, wherever he was at the time, this is a guy who did some really great stuff. I think you look at his rushing grades, he was really solid running back. His highest grade in college for rushing, 86 overall rushing grade. But guess what? That's lower than his lowest receiving grade for a season in college. This guy was absolutely phenomenal when you look at him in the receiving department in college. At 80.9 or 81.9 grade was his lowest grade. He had 91.5 and a 90.7 grade as well. This guy was a very accomplished receiving running back coming out of college. Now, I think, like you said, it goes to show maybe that they need to add him into the receiving game a little bit more. The fact that there's other running backs out there who I think are good, but are arguably not quite as good or talented, have the skill set as a Jahmyr Gibbs that are outpacing him in the receiving game. That's a shame. This is a guy that really should be cut out wide more often, getting the ball in the receiving game more often, because this guy, he did incredible stuff. He was averaging like 3 yards per route run, which is a very high number, 3.24 yards per route run in his college days. This guy was really talented with the ball in his hand. So I think the more that he's out wide, the more he's involved in the receiving game, the better things are going to go for the Lions. So as Jahmyr Gibbs goes, the Lions are going to go. He's a powerhouse last year, fantastic grades, just really a great player, but I think they can get him even more involved, even better. So I love the news. I love that we're hearing about it. I think Gibbs seems excited about it. I think this is just an offense where you brought up the best point. Everyone is counting Detroit out. Both coordinators gone. Everyone's expecting this team to take a step back. But you look at what's going on. It seems like this team, in a way, is getting more innovative. They're getting smarter. They're looking at their players and saying, hey, we need to do some more creative stuff. What are you really good at? How can we utilize that? That's where they're coming in, putting Jahmyr Gibbs out in the slot more, out wide more, getting more passes into his hands. And I think that is going to be a major net positive for this team. I think we're going to see Jahmyr Gibbs bud. I think he's already a superstar, but we're going to see, peak Alvin Kamara type levels from Jahmyr Gibbs. Of that guy was wrecking the league. He was absolutely fantastic. One of the best dual threat running backs I think we've seen in a long time. I think Jahmyr Gibbs can be better than that. I think getting him involved in the receiving game here is only going to elevate him, shows what he's capable of. But I think this is a really good sign for the Lions. They are moving in the right direction.
And people talk about opportunities for the Lions to improve. People forget when you look at the advanced metrics, if you look at the passing game for Detroit in 2024, as good as the Lions were during the regular season, they finished 13th in the NFL, 1-3 in the NFL, basically middle of the pack, the 77.0 passing grade, again, courtesy of PFF. So they had a great opportunity to improve that part of their offense. They were so dominant, so many other factors that people kind of glossed over the fact that there were a lot of times their passing game wasn't among the NFL's elite. Now, they were among the NFL's best in terms of receivers, and defense was outstanding, forcing turnovers, and running game. They were unstoppable, factor in the trick plays and the big plays, and they were a total machine. But the passing game was definitely an area they could have gotten better at. And I'm not saying Jared Goff is a slouch or anything like that, or Jared Goff played poorly. They just didn't give enough opportunities the way you see other big-time offenses with their quarterbacks really utilize their scheme in situations and create opportunities for their quarterback to excel. I think Ben Johnson did wonders for Jared Goff, but I think it was Johnson's offense that Goff was designed to pull the trigger with, and they kind of worked together. It was collaborative. I think going forward in this season, and we see this with the emphasis of Jahmyr Gibbs as a slot wide receiver, is that this is now Goff's offense, and it's going to be tailored to his skill set, and that's an area where the Lions definitely could improve. Frankly, we saw that in the postseason defeat last year, and really the year prior to that against the San Francisco 49ers. You look at offenses that were tailored for those young quarterbacks, Brock Purdy and Daniels respectively, and I think we're going to see a very similar strategy in Detroit, building an offense tailored for the Detroit Lions. Frankly, the Super Bowl champion Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia Eagles, very similar dynamic there. This is the first time during his tenure with Detroit where I think Jared Goff will get a perfectly centered offense for his skill set, and it starts with Jahmyr Gibbs and a significant roster change, a significant lineup change, significant strategic move, whatever you want to call it. This is critical for changing the offense to benefit the quarterback and push this Lions squad onto the next level.